Endless Forms Most Beautiful, Nightwish's new album, their 8th studio effort, coming to us here in the year of 2015. Nightwish is a band that has been no stranger to controversy due to the fact that it seems that their vocalists are all in a pipeline. They start off strong when it comes to reputation in the band, and then after a while it seems that they start to have some problems with the guys, and then eventually they're kicked out in favor of another. This has happened with Tarta, with Annette, and now we have the first studio album with Floor Jansen of After Forever and Revamp. And some people are worried that, you know, she's just going to go the same way as the others. Tarta was the first Nightwish vocalist on albums such as Oceanborn and Once, and then Annette lasted, you know, she was on many albums. Annette was then only on 2 of them with Dark Passion Play and Imaginarium. And now we have Floor Jansen. And a lot of people are thinking that, well, how long is she going to last? Is she not going to play with the boys? That doesn't matter. I think the band have their own reasons for doing what they did, and we will never really know those reasons because, you know, even though in the case of Tarta there was the open letter to the fans and whatnot, and to her, you know, we can't know what goes on behind closed doors. And there's a lot of argument about who's better and what blah, 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 blah. We're not going to get into that. That doesn't matter here. We're reviewing Endless Forms Most Beautiful with Floor Jansen. This is her first studio effort with the band, after Annette was kicked off of the band very early on in the Imaginarium tour. Annette, in her permanent absence, Floor Jansen was brought on to take her place. Floor Jansen is one of the most incredible female metal vocalists out there, and so I had some high hopes listening to this album, especially seeing how well she handled the Imaginarium tour with material that was not her own. With Endless Forms Most Beautiful, we also see the addition of Troy Donockley. He did play on Imaginarium and Dark Passion Play. However, he was not a permanent member. He just provided some music, but now he is indeed a permanent member. I first knew of him as he played on The Theory of Everything, the newest Arion album, released a few years back. And it was fantastic there, and it was great to hear him again on this new Nightwish disc. Now, Nightwish is a band that has gone through a lot of transformation in their sound. They've always had a sort of symphonic power-like sound, you know, always progressive and such, but throughout their time it's always been, you know, some albums are more metal-focused, some were more focused on the music, a little more poppy were some of them. So a lot of people have been wondering, what is this going to be like with a brand new vocalist and with the addition of Troy Donockley, you know, on the pipes, on the Uilleann pipes. You know, people have been wondering what's going to be like. And, you know, having just listened to it, I'm here to give my review. So, we're going to go track by track, and we're going to see what this is going to be like. The Endless Forms Most Beautiful was inspired by the title of a book by none other than Richard Dawkins, who actually provides some narration on this album. It's wonderful. We begin with the first song, which is Shudder Before the Beautiful. Now, this song was indeed released as a single, and it begins with Richard Dawkins giving some narration about, you know, the beauty of something, whatever, lies within understanding, of shuddering before the beautiful. Basically, the deepest knowledge lies in understanding. Something about, I can't remember. I had it memorized before I came out here to film, but just kind of forgot. The deepest knowledge lies in understanding. I should do whatever. Whatever it is, this album opener is strong. This is really good. This is what you were hoping for to open the album. I got some memories of Dark Chest of Wonders while I was listening to this, the wonderful opener from Once. Yes, that's my personal favorite Nightwish album, I think. It's got so many great tracks, you know. Obviously, Dark Chest of Wonders, Nemo, Wish I Had an Angel, Highest Hopes, you know, Creek Mary's Blood, Ghost Love Score, and of course, Planet Hell, you know, some great tunes. So, I'll often probably compare some of these to what I experienced there. It's a very excellent opening track, really gets you into the mood, you know, with what you've come to expect from Nightwish. What I can say about this album is that there's nothing, except for the final track, which we're going to need to discuss, there's nothing that's going to blow your mind as far as Nightwish goes. You're going to be used to the sort of same formula as it goes. And I hate to say, even though, it's a good album. It does feel like Nightwish is recycling a formula, and it's apparent even now on Shudder Before the Beautiful. When the using the metal with the symphonic elements behind it, and sort of it's almost their chorus, if you will, in a lot of their songs. Think of something like Storytime, but in that sense, a and it is used several times on this album as well, which in one song it's powerful and it's a killer, intro sort of riff feeling kind of thing. On this, it kind of gets old after you hear it a few times. However, Shudder Before the Beautiful does indeed provide an excellent opener. It's got a fantastic guitar solo going on, guitar and synth solo. It's very well done, and it provides an excellent lead into the album. It's standard Nightwish fare. Then we have Weak Fantasy. Now, this was a very good track, I thought. It was heavy. The two heaviest tracks on the album were definitely Weak Fantasy and Yours Is an Empty Hope. Weak Fantasy is, it reminded me a little bit of Planet Hell, just a little bit. One thing that I would have liked more on this album is Marco singing more. Because if I think of, Planet Hell, that was a very aggressive, heavy song with Marco doing a lot of the vocals. In this case, it was just sort of, I was reminded of it just a little bit. Not it doesn't sound anything like it. I was reminded of it because it was fast and it was heavy, and it also knew when to slow it down and bring in the pipes, which is wonderful. I think Troy's pipe abilities were used decently at points. I kind of feel, much on the rest of the album, that Troy and Floor were not utilized properly. I feel like they have fantastic abilities that were not showcased in this album. However, when they are showcased in the more progressive sections, they do sound wonderful. So Weak Fantasy is definitely a great track if you want a heavy, fast, hard-hitting song. That's what's up. And then we have Elan, the next track. Very simple. It was released as the first single, threw a lot of people off, but a lot of people were like, look, maybe this is like Nemo from Once. It's a slower song, but we're going to have a really great album around it. And that turned out to be the case. Although I don't think this is maybe as strong as Nemo is, I do think it is a very good track that does showcase Troy's abilities, because there is the heavy violin sort of recurrent section. Well, I almost started doing the Jeopardy theme. I can't do it. I'm going to start doing the Jeopardy theme. It actually kind of sounds like it when I think about it, but it's a great track. A lot of people were disappointed in it when it first came out. I learned to love it. It's not heavy. There's not a heavy orchestration behind it, but it's emotional. It's powerful. I've come to really love this song. I've listened to it several times over, and I've come to really enjoy it. It's good. It's not anything that's going to blow you away, but I think it's a beautiful song regardless. And, of course, that was the one that got a lot of people salty in Nightwish because it got leaked early before it was meant to be released, and the guy who leaked it was targeted by the band and stuff, and they said they never wanted to target anyone, but it was a mess. Thomas made a big statement about it. But it was a good song, but not representative of what you'd hear on the album. Then we have the other really heavy song on the album, Yours Is an Empty Hope. This is much like Weak Fantasy was, though it has a little more time to breathe and expand. This one will actually hear some growling, which is great because Tara is capable of, Floor is capable of some wonderful operatic vocals and some growls. So it was great to hear that. It's just a heavy track, really gets you going into it, and not much more to say. It's a nice, heavy Nightwish song, much like Weak Fantasy was, though not as noticeable with the pipes as Weak Fantasy was. Then we move into sort of the middle meat of the album, which unfortunately I do have to say is kind of forgettable, which is sad because I was expecting a lot from this. Like I said, I don't think Troy and Floor were used properly, and I think Thomas, who writes all the material, Thomas writes the material, and then the band, Marco sort of, watches, will give his opinions on it once it's done, so he's the secondary buffer. I don't think, this is a good system, but it's what it's always been done. I prefer when the whole band works together and gets their vision, because I don't think Thomas wrote some of these songs all that great. It doesn't feel bad, but it doesn't feel interesting either. It feels like the standard Nightwish fare. I mean, that said, Nightwish is a good band, and so it's good to get more of Nightwish, but it's not going to make you go, wow, like other songs would. You know, it's just kind of, and the songs really don't feel terribly unique. However, you know, like I said, moving on to which is the next song, which is Our Decades in the Sun. Now, this is another reference to Richard Dawkins talking about evolution and how our time here as humans is merely only decades comparatively to the millions upon billions of years that other species and creatures exist on this planet, as long as the planet has existed. It's a nice, slower song, which I did like. And it begins to really get some more instrumentation put into it as it ends. However, I feel that the song was cut short almost before the really good instrumentation that comes in the second half is allowed to flourish, build, and grow. You know, it was going well. I was hearing it was good. It was nice to hear Floor singing again, slower, softer, and it was pretty. But, you know, to me, the song was not dynamic enough. Then we had My Walden. This song was of the same nature, except it was faster. You know, Our Decades in the Sun was a much slower song. My Walden was faster and had a strong chorus, but the chorus did not feel that it was, again, you know, you got to strike a balance in these songs. And I don't feel that the chorus was present enough, nor was the rest of the song dynamic enough to fit this strong chorus. However, in the second half of the song also, you know, we have another progressive section where the instrumentation is allowed to shine, and this one I actually feel is allowed to fully flourish and grow and create the full sound that they were aiming for. It doesn't feel like it was cut short, like in Our Decades in the Sun. We then have Endless Form's Most Beautiful, the title track. You know, you're probably going to expect something really good here. And it's, again, standard Nightwish. Think of the riff, the go-to thing from Storytime. The and, you know, that's what you have a majority of there. That's just the way it feels. Again, second half, again, just like these other songs, once you get past the main body of the song, you get into the more progressive section. It is allowed to grow, but again, doesn't really fully deliver like I was hoping for, but it does manage. And this, unfortunately, is the same case with all the other songs. We still have a few left, but except for the final song, which is its own section that really needs to be discussed because it was actually really incredible. We have Edema Rue, after Endless Form's Most Beautiful. Now, this song was another slower one that successfully builds. Again, unlike Our Decades in the Sun that feels like it wasn't allowed to build enough, Edema Rue certainly does. It works, and I quite like it. It builds up from a slow into a more powerful section. But that said, through all of this, I don't think Nightwish is being expressed enough in what they can do, you know. I know Nightwish is capable of creating some intense atmospheres. Think of an album like Oceanborn. That album felt wonderfully atmospheric. It felt like while you were listening to this, it created its own environment inside of the music. You know, all the songs felt like they had a similar theme, and all the songs here do have a similar theme, and the idea of the evolution and whatnot, and existence. But the sound itself does not feel it has the same theme to it. It doesn't feel like we are somewhere in a place listening to this. Unlike Oceanborn, where you had the visions in your head of what was going on. And that's unfortunately the issue here. Alpenglow, I hardly even remember that song. It was, again, the same formula as all the others. And what really bums me out is that I know Nightwish is capable of doing more. I know they're capable of writing some really fantastic metal parts, and, well, when I say Nightwish, I really specifically mean Tuomas. Again, he's not a bad writer, and I think perhaps part of why it's not as full and fleshy as it could be is because as he was working on this, he was also working on some solo work, music inspired by the life and times of Scrooge. So I feel like his attention was unfortunately split, and it shows, because it's standard Nightwish. They're not trying to do more. They're not utilizing the new talents at their disposal, like Floor and Troy, who are fantastic at what they do. But, you know, you'll read interviews where they say, oh, I was really challenged. I don't think really that they were challenged. I mean, maybe they were, you know, and if so, then they did do well. But knowing what they are capable of, I feel like they were just saying that. Because I know, based on, if you hear even one After Forever song, if you hear Troy anywhere else, you know these guys can pull out some amazing stuff, but I don't feel it was utilized well on the album. I understand it's more than just them, it's the whole band, but I don't feel like it was done decently enough. After that, we have, you know, Alpenglow. It's not even worth getting into because it's just like the other songs. But then we have the songs that closed the album. The instrumental, The Eyes of Sharbat Gula. This one was based on a picture, I believe, that Thomas had seen. And it had to do with children going off to war. He couldn't find lyrics to be poignant enough for the album. So instead, the lyrics were scrapped to be an instrumental piece. Now, this piece is 6 minutes long, but it doesn't feel like it, and that's a testament to how nice it is. I almost feel like this belongs as an intro to The Greatest Show on Earth, the final song on the album. You know, even though the two songs aren't alike in any way, I do feel that this instrumental section is a great transition in between the metal sections of the album and what's to come on the final song. You know, it works, and I almost feel like it goes with the final song. You know, it's got, you know, voices in the background like a children's choir happening, and sound and some slight sound effects. But overall, the instruments are each brought out and allowed to shine, and it worked quite well. But then, you know, after what would have been, if that was the final track, I would have said the album was a disappointment. You know, I was glad to hear a more focus on the metal. I just don't think the metal was expanded on and progressed with enough. However, I would have liked a better balance in between the symphonic and metal. Because I feel like they're either doing one or the other. There's no fusion between them. You know, even if there was more symphonic, I would have been okay with that. You know, I'm glad that it's not poppy anymore. And some of the songs feel like they might as well be from Imaginarium, which isn't a bad thing, but that also doesn't suit what Floor is doing on this album. However, that all aside, the final track is what makes this album worth the price of admission. The Greatest Show on Earth. This track was utterly unbelievable. Nightwish's longest song to date, clocking it at around 24 minutes. That's a hell of a venture for them. They've had some long songs, like Ghost Love Score, one of my favorite Nightwish tunes, but this one was more than double that length. And so it had me nervous. I'm like, are they going to be able to pull this off? Have they bit off more than they can chew? Are we going to have something that's as epic as Ghost Love Score? And in a different way? Yes, they did pull it off, and it is just as epic. It's not in the same, you know, orchestrated way that Ghost Love Score is, but it does manage to be an absolutely wonderful, wonderful listen. Obviously, The Greatest Show on Earth that they're referring to is, of course, just like the title with Endless Swords Most Beautiful, is about life and evolution. And this song, which a lot of people have been wondering, what does it sound like? What does a 24-minute Nightwish song sound like? And it is fantastic. It begins with... Richard Dawkins is once again featured on this track. And it begins slowly bleeding into this, you know, coming off of... in the eyes of, what is it, Eyes of Sharbat Gula or whatever it is. The Eyes of Sharbat Gula, yeah. Leading off of that and coming into its own. And it is sort of trying to, I think, is representing, you know, pre-Big Bang. And then the drumming in this song, in this section, the first section, because it's split into 4 sections, you know, as it were. No, 5 sections, excuse me, 5 sections. So the 5 parts that split into are 4.6, Life, The Toolmaker, The Understanding, and Sea-Worn Driftwood. And obviously I feel in 4.6, in the beginning, this is the Big Bang, and the drums have these wonderful effects on them that are used also in Shudder Before the Beautiful to make it sound really super explosive, like things are spiraling out, and it's this amazing opening. The orchestration and the music behind it is just incredible. We have some narration by Richard Dawkins, and then we have some... This is the song that I've wanted to hear from the band, basically. Because in these parts, the symphonic, orchestral elements are finally allowed to shine. They have 24 minutes to stretch their muscles as much as they want. And it is wonderful. They set this wonderful, mysterious, yet enthrallingly epic feel to it. When it works, it goes with narration from time to time. It's maybe 2 or 3 times throughout it. Talking about the origins of life and how, You know, we only have our few decades here as beings. Ultimately, as a species, we're going to only be here for a few decades comparatively on a scale to how long the other creatures of the planet have been here, and most likely will continue to be here. How basically we are just grains of sand. There's even a section where he discusses, you know, how selfish it is for people to be afraid to die, because for those of us who are allowed to live, there is an infinite more amount of people per person that have not had the ability to live. More than the grains of sand in the Sahara Desert are the people who have not won the lottery to have a chance at living. So we must enjoy what we have, that we won the billions upon billions of chances to be here on this earth. And it's a pretty powerful piece of narration when you think about it. Now this song goes through in between the slower, fantastic orchestral sections, and there are band sections in there with singing and playing and everything else, and there are also some soundscapes of animals and, you know, water and such like that, plus the narration, and it all flows together so wonderfully. There's so much going on there that I simply can't explain it enough in detail as I'd like. It's a song that you really need to hear for yourself. It feels as though it is a soundtrack to a movie of sorts, and it is done wonderfully. I think Tomas should really get into that. He's talked about wanting to do that, and this was just so wonderfully done. You know, you really feel the weight and gravity of the story that's being told here. This is what Nightwish is truly capable of. This is, you know, the ghost love score of this next decade. You know, that album, that song defined Nightwish's early career for me. That was incredible. This song got me just as excited when I heard it. It doesn't have that bombastic orchestration like it does with you know, the sections where it goes slow and then explodes in that song. In this one, it's constantly shifting, constantly moving forward, just like evolution in life. It's moving in between soundscapes of animals and nature and the narration, and then some slower symphonic orchestral sections, and then a little bit of metal, hard-hitting metal, and, you know, Floor comes in, just kicks ass with her voice, and then goes back and forth until near the end, before we hit the final bits of narration and sound effects. You have this beautiful, beautiful, emotional, instrumental build-up that is just, like, incredible. It was fantastic. You'll know it when you hear it. It brought me to tears because it was so powerful and wonderful, yet there were no words to it. It was that moment there near the very end really, to me, exemplified the power of music. You know, I was fully immersed into the atmosphere of this song. While I felt the rest of the album lacked atmosphere, this song's atmosphere was thick, 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 and it was wonderful. It was whimsical, it was powerful, and it was intense, and it was just beautiful. Especially in this section, when it all built up. Man, that's a testament to the power of music and to the power of what I know Nightwish is capable of. Because that was just such a swelling, orchestral, instrumental section that it just evoked emotion in me on the deepest level. There was no necessarily context to it aside from the story of the song, but god damn was it good. It was a feeling from the deepest level of emotion that they conjured there. And as the song faded out with Seaworn Driftwood, oh man, was it such a good song. So, in my opinion, you know, while a majority of the songs on the album are okay at best, you know, they're still good, you know, since it's Nightwish. The way I see it is, you know, Nightwish is above a lot of the quality of a lot of music out there when it comes to this sort of genre. So it's okay, being that the fact that it's Nightwish. If it was any other band pulling this off, it'd be great. But by Nightwish's standards, it was just, a lot of the songs were okay. The first 4 tracks were definitely wonderful. The last 2 were also fantastic. The rest, you know, sort of felt like some leftovers from Imaginarium and just some decent Nightwish tunes, you know. I wasn't really floored by any of them. But the last one, with with The Greatest Show on Earth, wow. That's a competitor for Song of the Year right there. You know, right up there as a favorite along Ghost Love Score. That was just something else. It's a beautiful track. If you're not interested in hearing any of the other songs or whatever, you gotta hear this one. I recommend just hearing the whole album just to see for yourself, because who knows, you know, I may warm up to the other tracks eventually. But as far as I'm concerned, the first set of tracks, first 4, and then the last 2 with Eyes leading into The Greatest Show on Earth are just amazing, with Greatest Show on Earth being one of the most emotional and beautiful pieces I've heard. The rest were sort of forgettable, and it's unfortunate because I know Floor and Troy can bring a lot to the band. I was looking forward to hearing Floor really change up Nightwish and bring some really awesome creativity and intensity back to it. Unfortunately, I feel the fact that Tomas writes all the parts of the band sort of does take away from this, and people like Floor were not utilized properly comparatively to what I know that they're capable of. That said, it's still a good release and still worth listening to, but it's not quite what I was hoping for from them. However, with The Greatest Show on Earth considered, it does make the album strong. The other tracks, I think, because Tomas was focused on writing his other solo album, and Greatest Show on Earth was such an amazing song that was probably worked like crazy on, I feel like a majority of the tracks suffered as a result, except for the first few. So definitely listen to the first, if you just want a really good experience of this, listen to the first 4 and the last 2. The rest are okay. You know, they're good. They have their moments. They're not bad at all, but they aren't consistent. It's an inconsistent album. And they do have their good moments, but nothing is amazing all the way through, except for The Greatest Show on Earth and the instrumental track that precedes it. Overall, it's an album worth listening to, but it's not going to blow you away, except for The Greatest Show on Earth. If nothing else, listen to that one song. It is incredible. I'll be seeing Nightwish at the Town Ballroom in Buffalo here on April the 16th, I believe. 16th? Yeah, pretty sure. If I'm wrong, I might be wrong by day, maybe the 17th, but it's a Thursday night. It's the 16th, I'm pretty sure. Actually, let me check, just so I can make sure. I'm gonna pull up my calendar because I don't want to be misquoting. People like, oh, you're not coming to Buffalo on that day, you fucking mate. Yeah, I know I'm gonna get it. Let's see here. And so I'm excited to see them. I know they're going to play Ghost Love Score and all their classics. And they said, while the chance of them playing The Greatest Show on Earth in its entirety is very minuscule, they said there are some band sections that they are indeed willing to play, which is exciting because I really want to hear some tracks off of that. Yeah, it's the 16th, Thursday night, April 16th, I'll be seeing them with Sabaton and Delane. I'm very excited for that show. And I'm excited to see what, you know, hopefully Floor will be able to bring some more out of these tracks that weren't as dimensional as I'd like on the album and make them really killer live. I'm excited to see it, and overall this album was pretty good. You know, some weak spots here and there, but oftentimes there were the second half of the song where the progressive and symphonic elements were allowed to shine. And of course, The Greatest Show on Earth is an incredible song, and you gotta listen to that. I recommend the album, but just know it's not going to be all that incredible except for the last song. Other than that, that's about it. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and rock the fuck on. See you guys later.